Karl Marx has transformed the political landscape of the world. Reacting to the nature of the industrial age, Marx and Friedrich Engels theorized the idea of communism, which influenced future leaders throughout the 20th century. Since communism and the teachings of Marx have been so influential on the world stage, that spurs a question: what if communism was never invented? What if Karl Marx's ideas were simply never spread? In this alternate timeline, communism just never becomes a major ideology. To Marx, communism was the utopian classless society where people take what they need and create what they may. There is no money, and people work not because they have to, but because they want to. This idea inspired countless movements across Latin America, Europe, and Asia. Marx advocated for a revolution against capitalism, installation of a state ruled by the workers. After a while, the state was to eventually devolve because it was no longer needed, but this of course never, or could never, have happened. Russia, China, Cuba all fell into corrupt states ruled by an elite few. In some cases, Russia and China even killed millions of their own people due to government policies. Standard of living fell and culture was diminished, all in an effort to bring apart this perfect society set by Marx. Before the Soviets, Marxists and socialists had the same ideas. Socialism is a broad term. To oversimplify, it is when the society allows for all citizens to have equal opportunity and a level playing field. Over time, factions split on how to achieve this society and what level was good enough. For example, democratic socialists, like the Nordic countries and Bernie Sanders, are socialists but believe in capitalism and democracy. Marx was influential to the development of European socialism. For Marx and his followers, socialism was simply a step in the road to communism. Marx's ideas were the foundations for many European social movements. At the end of World War I, socialists fell into two main camps with the start of the Russian Revolution. The Bolsheviks, later called communists, were those who believed in a violent revolution to bring about communist paradise, and the anti-Bolsheviks, those who believed socialism could evolve naturally into European political systems through democracy. After World War I, the Bolsheviks distanced themselves from the communists and gained influence, all through elections and not revolution. However, because of the actions of Mao and Stalin, socialists had to move away from Marx's ideas, which is why in European nations, socialist ideas blended in different variations with capitalist societies. His ideas may have not been fully implemented, but his influences felt. In this alternate timeline, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels are simply never born. It's entirely likely another intellectual could write a book that would become just as popular as the Communist Manifesto and Capital. In this alternate timeline, the new author's writings could come along and influence future movements instead of Marx. So it's entirely possible in this alternate timeline, socialists could be inspired by another writer who doesn't share communistic theory. Yet in a world without Karl Marx, that does not mean a world of pure American-style capitalism, burgers, freedom, and bikinis. Socialism would still be prevalent in European society, even without Marx to help lay the foundation for socialist parties. Change would have came to Europe anyway. And in fact, without the Soviets taking over Russia, the socialists of Europe would be even more influential than in our timeline. In our timeline, with the violent rise of Lenin and Stalin, the world feared the ramifications of the Soviet Union. They became so much of a threat, socialist movements unrelated to the Leninists and Stalinists became discredited, especially in the United States. In this alternate timeline, if Marx's ideas never spread, the Red Scare and the Cold War never would have happened. In this alternate timeline, ironically, without Marx, the United States could have been more socialist. If you want to learn more about this, check out my video, What If the Russian Revolution Failed? This alternate timeline, fascism would not have risen at all. Fascism actually has origins based on Marxism, and originally was a far-left movement just like communism. Mussolini, after his rise to power, was heavily influenced by Marx. Both believed in a revolution against the capitalists by the working class. Mussolini was even an avid socialist early in his life, writing for a socialist newspaper. Mussolini didn't believe in any type of class struggle, but without a doubt Marxism translated to dominate Mussolini's fascist beliefs. Of course, fascist-like movements still could have risen, but they would have been far less influential than the socialists. Without a communist boogeyman, socialism, or at least capitalism mixed with socialist elements, would have become the most popular ideology in this alternate timeline. In Asia, without communism, China's nationalists would immediately take over after the fall of the emperor. China would never face a brutal civil war that it did in our timeline. China is able to successfully fight off Japan if it ever did try to invade the country. Today, in this alternate timeline, China has had over 70 years of great relations with the West. Without decades of isolation from Mao's communist regime, China would be the leading economic power in the world. In this alternate timeline, there still would have been a reaction to the rapid industrialization of the world. Communism and fascism in our timeline were both seen as solutions, which to the poorer masses in desperate times seemed appealing. In a world where Marx never writes his communist theory, another writer takes his place. His writings could influence the globe, and it's impossible to guess what they would be or how they'd affect Europe and the world. This is simply one scenario. What do you think would have happened if communism never existed? Say in the comments. This video idea was suggested by Patreon contributor Nick Pfeiffer. Thanks for your suggestion, Nick. As for the rest, like on Facebook and subscribe if you have not done so. This is Cody from the Alternate History Hub.